Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. It is said it's lonely at the top, but perhaps not when the pinnacle you're talking about is Mount Everest, the world's tallest peak. The quest to reach the top of Mount Everest brings hundreds of people to the Himalayas. But this year, a dramatic picture focused the world's attention on the ever-increasing crowd on the highest peak on Earth. Overcrowding on Mount Everest has resulted in at least 10 people dying or missing in the arduous climb this year. The quest to conquer Mount Everest is dangerous and fatal. It all started in the 19th century when British surveyors found a Himalayan peak that towered above all others at almost 28,000 feet or nearly 9,000 meters above sea level. Before 1865, it was called Peak 15. But in that year, it was renamed Mount Everest in honor of George Everest, the surveyor of much of the Indian subcontinent. In 1953, the world's highest peak was conquered by New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary and the Nepalese Sherpa Tenzing Norgay. They became the first humans to reach the summit of Mount Everest on the Nepal-Tibet border. In Depth today looks at why there have been so many deaths on Mount Everest this year. What is causing the overcrowding on the world's highest peak and how it can be checked? We also try and understand the human craze to conquer Mount Everest even at the cost of their lives. The year 2019 has been the deadliest year for Mount Everest climbers. 10 people have already died in little more than 2 weeks in a rush to conquer the world's highest summit. Although most are believed to have suffered from altitude sickness, which is caused by low amounts of oxygen at high elevation, others have blamed overcrowding for the increase in the number of deaths this season. Over 381 climbers were permitted to scale the summit from the Nepalese side this season, while over 130 others were tackling Everest from the mountain's northern side in Tibet. Here's a detailed report.
The reward for climbers who ascend Mount Everest is a view like none other. An expansive vista of the Himalayas from the highest point on the planet. But this season at the top, the climbers saw something else. Hundreds of other climbers. The world's tallest mountain had a queue of over 250 to 300 climbers making their way to the summit of Mount Everest. The flat part of the summit, about 18 feet or so, was packed with 15 to 20 people. According to a trekker, to get up there, people had to wait hours in a line on one of the most dangerous mountains. Climbers pushed and shoved to take selfies. In the past 2 decades, the average annual death rate of climbers on Mount Everest has remained at about 6. But this season, at least 10 people have already been reported dead or missing on the world's highest peak. The dead included 4 climbers from India and 1 each from the United States, Britain and Nepal. An Irish mountaineer is presumed dead after he slipped and fell close to the summit. Another Austrian and an Irish climber died on the northern Tibet side. Most of the deaths on Everest this year were due to exhaustion and tiredness, aggravated because a crowded route to and from the summit has led to delays. Many climbers also ran out of oxygen.
So there was always so many people on these summit days, and then they get stuck in a queue, and then if they have like a bad risk management or like a cheap outfitter which spares on like an oxygen cylinder extra or something like this, or the skill set of the guides, of the Sherpas, then things happen and go wrong.
There is a many problem. There is a weather problem, high wind and traffic jam, many problems.
An Indian mountaineer who was forced to turn back before summiting Mount Everest said the lack of trained guides and delays on the crowded route up to over 29,000 feet summit were key factors in the spate of deaths on the mountain.
I mean, loads of people died this year, everyone knows, and it's been a carnage. And I should say, it has become a death race there because there was massive traffic jam and people are pushing themselves who are not even capable of doing it. They do it, they try to summit, and they, instead of summiting, they kill themselves.
While overcrowding was blamed for the increase in the number of deaths, other factors were also at play. This is also the season that saw a record of 381 climbing permits issued by the Nepalese government. This means about 600 people were preparing to embark on the climb, with permit holders accompanied by support staff up the mountain. At least 140 others were granted permits to climb from the northern flank in Tibet.
But what I understand is there was too many permits issued and there's too many people up there, which obviously needs to be addressed. Obviously, if it's not safe for people to go, people shouldn't be going.
Although final numbers are yet to be released, with the season set up to wrap up this week, this could take the total past last year's record of 807 people reaching the summit. Nepal's tourism authorities has denied accusations that the rise in Mount Everest deaths is solely due to overcrowding. It said other factors, including adverse weather conditions, had also contributed. Besides this, mountaineering experts said other factors which led to these deaths were missed weather window, bad crowd management, inexperienced climbers, and competition between operators. The death toll for Everest's 2019 climbing season is not unusual for the mountain. In 2018, 5 climbers died, while 6 died in both 2017 and 2016. However, this year's Everest toll is the highest since 2014 and 15, when huge earthquakes triggered devastating avalanches. About 5,000 people have scaled the Everest summit so far, and more than 200 mountaineers have died on the peak since 1922, when the first climber's death on Everest were recorded. The majority of bodies are believed to have remained buried under glaciers or snow. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Amid all the stories of overcrowding, tragedy and heartbreak, Mount Everest continues to be the biggest draw for mountaineers as well as ordinary people. Hundreds of people from dozens of countries visit the base camp, planning to make a bid for the summit of the world's tallest peak. Why does Everest continue to be so alluring despite the costs, the crowds, as well as the risks? Let's find out in our next report. Despite all the stories of overcrowding, tragedy, heartbreak, Mount Everest continues to be the biggest draw for mountaineers and ordinary people. It is the highest peak a human being can hope to scale on planet Earth. Hundreds of people from dozens of countries visit the base camp, planning to make a bid for the summit of the world's tallest peak. Many do it for adventure. Some love the risk. The idea of conquering the world's tallest peak, whatever the reason, Mount Everest is the biggest draw for hundreds of adventurers across the world. It is the peak that represents the ultimate, the pinnacle. Climbers describe it as a magical mountain with magnetic qualities. The modern urge to climb Everest began 150 years ago when British surveyors called the 8,848-meter peak the tallest in the world. Mount Everest soon became a third pole as explorers raced to become the first to stand on top of it. Calling it the highest mountain made it an object of fascination. For everyone, it became a trophy, the biggest they can hope to achieve. South African Sarah Nkosi Khumalo became the first black African woman to conquer Mount Everest on 23rd May. She urged fellow Africans to follow in her footsteps and make it the norm.
It is a humbling title. It is an opportunity, but I'm very much aware and cognizant of the fact that it comes with a lot of responsibilities. But it's almost, I feel like saying it's damn about time, that we also got a seat at the table. The mountain was first summited in 1953. What have we been waiting for? And I'm hoping that young climbers come after me and just make it the norm.
It was her fourth attempt to stand on top of the world's highest mountain, Kumalo is a 47-year-old e-commerce executive who has conquered 5 mountains, including Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Aconcagua in Argentina, and Mount Elbrus in Russia. She uses her expeditions to raise funds for children's education and libraries in Africa.
It takes longer than Kilimanjaro. It's a lot colder. There's a lot more logistics. It's not. There's technical parts of it. There's also where you track. It's got a bit of everything, and it just look. It is the highest mountain in the world. You know, that says it all. I think all mountains demand respect. Everest more so than most. I think the fact that it's challenged me and not allowed me passage a few times, 3 times before, twice due to natural disaster and once because of the weather. I think that challenge made it more sweeter, I suppose.
In contrast, Nepali mountaineer Kami Rita Sherpa has climbed Mount Everest a record 24 times. The latest successful attempt earned him a hero's welcome in Kathmandu. The 49-year-old Sherpa reached the summit for his second ascent in just 1 week. The Nepali Sherpa was welcomed back to the capital with a religious ceremony and paraded through the street alongside his wife.
खुसीको अवस्था भोलितिर मात्रै हुन्छ अहिले म थाकिरहेछ थाकेको अवस्थामा हाम्रो खुसी र दुःख भन्दैन भोलितिर चाहिँ मेरो खुसीको कुरा चाहिँ भोलि मात्र हुन्छ
The record holder scaled the traditional southeast ridge route, which was pioneered by New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay in 1953, and remains the most popular snow trail leading to the highest point on Earth. About 5,000 climbers have climbed Everest since it was first scaled by Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa in 1953, but only about 550 of them were women. With inputs from Bipul Agarwal, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Time for a short break on the program. When we return, we'll talk about the damage caused due to overcrowding on Mount Everest. Do stay with us.
The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira, at 6:30 p.m.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back, you're watching In Depth. Everest tourism is causing a mountain of problems. As mountaineers explore the sacred mountain and benefit the local economy, they also play a major role in tipping the eco-balance of the Everest region. As of today, the Himalayan peak is at the cusp of commercial mountaineering and a trail of discarded waste. Here's a report on how various people are trying to save Mount Everest from officially turning into the world's highest rubbish dump.
For a few weeks each summer, the weather improves just enough to give climbers a chance to scale the Mount Everest. And increasing numbers flock to Everest. The Nepalese government passed new laws to regulate the hundreds who came to take on the challenge. But it looks like officials in Kathmandu completely failed to grasp what's going on up in the Himalayan peaks and also miscalculated on saving the mountainside from human footprints. Over the years, increasing numbers of big spending climbers have turned Mount Everest into the world's highest rubbish dump. Discarded climbing equipment and rubbish is scattered around various camps of Mount Everest.
Most of these used items are left there, dead bodies are left there. In fact, the loo is also collected and distributed there in a big way. Although they are collected in plastic bags, but these bags are not brought down. And other food items are also left there, unused utensils and other materials, packaging of the food and this and that is left there. And as a result, it has become a very, very dirty environment in many respects. And the more the crowd, more the number of people, the more garbage it keeps collecting. From the base camp number 2, 40,000 tons of waste has been collected. And likewise, there are camp number 3, camp number 4, and camp number 4 is at an altitude of 8,000 meters. And after that, the summit is 8,848 meters. So the fourth summit is the place where they wait for the good weather. And if the weather is not too good and is not going to be good for long periods of time, many times they have to return back to the base number 3. And again, as soon as the good weather appears, they move to the base number 4. So base number 4, that is after 8,000 feet to the summit, it is known as a dead zone, where large number of deaths occur. And I think this kind of a crowd, which is increasing every year, perhaps next year it may be even more, creates a very, very serious problem.
Till 2018, 4,000 mountaineers had successfully reached the summit of Mount Everest ever since the Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay's great accomplishment in 1953. In 2014, 180 climbers attempted to summit Mount Everest from northeast ridge in Tibet. 120 succeeded. As mountaineers explored the sacred mountain and benefit the local economy, they also play a major part in tipping the eco-balance of Everest region. During the high season, the human waste, abandoned mountaineering gears such as empty oxygen cylinders, food wrappers, broken tents, battery and other trash became the hazardous byproduct of relentless commercial Everest expedition.
The sanctity of this environment, the United Nations has to take a close view as to what kind of rules and regulations need to be put. One such important thing that occurs to me is that most of the tour operator must be registered, and their efficiency and their proficiency in conducting these tours must be tested before they are allowed. Otherwise, they should not be allowed. And secondly, that certain amount of physical endurance, previous experience, etc. must be laid down before anybody is allowed to really ascend the mountain. Mountains are for everyone, but it does not mean that we should really allow those who are totally ill-equipped to go to the summit and create a problem for their life, as well as bring all kinds of problem to the pristine Himalayan environment.
However, nowadays, people have come to realize the seriousness of environmental issues on and around Mount Everest. Nepal's government also works with some non-governmental organizations to ease the situation. In 2011, Everest Summiteers Association, organized by Sherpas, teamed up with the Nepalese government and collected 1.5 tons of garbage. It included oxygen cylinders, ice piton and scraps from a helicopter and had them shifted to Kathmandu. Nepal Mountaineering Association also cooperates with other trekking companies to voluntarily collect tons of trash out of Mount Everest. Trash and bodies left on Mount Everest will take a long time to degrade given the freezing temperature. It may not be an imminent environmental disaster, but nevertheless, as Mount Everest remains the major source of fresh water in Asia, contamination would make it catastrophic. To better protect the environment in Everest region, Tibet keeps exchanging experiences with Nepal and works out solutions. For instance, mountaineers have to pay certain amount of deposit before they head to climb Mount Everest and are supposed to bring their trash back. If they fail to do so, their deposit is confiscated. Another key to protecting the sacred mountain is to raise awareness of environmental protection for most mountaineers. With inputs from Vipul Agrawal, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Coming back to talking about this season, the Nepalese government issued a record 381 climbing permits to Mount Everest this year. This means, in reality, about 600 people embarked on the climb with permit holders accompanied by support staff up the mountain. So overcrowding is being blamed as the prime reason for the increase in the number of deaths this year. In addition, weather fluctuations, bad crowd management, and huge number of inexperienced climbers made matters much worse. Mount Everest, the world's highest peak, has become a death zone. In 2 weeks, at least 10 climbers from different parts of the world have died ascending the Everest. As poor weather cut the climbing window, mountaineers were left waiting in long queues for the summit, risking exhaustion and running out of oxygen. According to Sherpa guides, long queues near the summit is normal during climbing season. Climbers often queue between 20 minutes to 1.5 hours in order to reach the summit, depending on the suitability of the climbing weather. But when there's a window of just 2 or 3 days, it gets very crowded as all climbers try to reach the summit at the same time.
Number one is that there are a large number of irresponsible operators who really take these tourists or these mountaineers and then serve as their agent. And it is lack of their experience. Many of the mountaineers which come do not have a previous experience of really ascending the mountains at such heights or relatively such heights. So I think this is a multiplying factor. An additive factor is that the total time that is available, which is known as climbing window, which happens to be in May, is too short. And within that short period, they wish to really climb. And also that the number of permits that are issued have no criteria. As one comes and they get the permit and so on. So there is no limit. And the third thing is that more than one country issues the permit. For example, Nepal issues it, and the Tibet also issues.
Expedition organizers say the number of Everest hopefuls from the Nepal side has increased in recent years after China set a limit on climbers from the Tibetan side. Only 2 deaths were reported on the Tibetan side this season. Nepal's tourism ministry issued permits to a record 381 climbers this season, each at a cost of about $11,000. In 2018, 346 permits were granted. Tourism officials have, however, rejected the notion that the summit became deadlier because of overcrowding due to the large number of permits. They attribute the casualties to 2 factors. A delay because of the cyclone effect on Everest in fixing the rope that the climbers use to ascend and descend, and the fact that many of the climbers want to ascend Everest only on the best climbing day. According to the Nepal Mountaineering Association, in addition to the weather fluctuation, there was delay of more than a week in fixing the rope at the highest peak. Besides, in recent years, concerns have also grown about how loosely regulated the expeditions are, with some organizers using old equipment, particularly oxygen cylinders, to maximize profit. Unprepared climbers not only make it crowded, they also risk lives of the Sherpas taking them up the mountain. Besides, climbers without basic skills who are entirely dependent on their Sherpa guides have increased in recent years. Mountaineers say long queues at the world's highest summit can be hazardous. When people have to wait in queues, they run short of oxygen and may not have enough oxygen left on their way down. To make matters worse, sometimes oxygen cylinders left out for designated climbers get stolen. The most dangerous part is often the descent. Many people push themselves to the summit, but once they reach it, they lose their motivation and energy on their way down, especially when it's a long, crowded journey back to the base camp. A number of expedition guides stress that reaching the top of the highest peak is immensely rewarding, But being physically prepared and choosing the right time to ascend go a long way towards reducing the risk. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. So that's it from us in today's edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow with a focus on some other important subject. You can also watch our program online on YouTube and Twitter. And don't forget to send your valuable feedback and suggestions about our program. Thank you very much for your time.